Hey, I wanted to share about shaking medicine for Kundalini awakening. I really feel I found a more safe and efficient approach to Kundalini awakening, and also realizing that Qigong, and particularly a style that I made called shaking medicine Qigong, through this Qigong, through shaking medicine and infusing it with Qigong, is such an important piece missing in the Kundalini world. So, what is Kundalini? If you're here, you're probably somewhat aware, but basically, it's quite an esoteric thing. Kundalini is a yogic concept, and it's about awakening the deep spiritual energies. Really, they talk about this energy sitting at the base of our spine that for most people is just dormant their whole life, but when we access it, it starts to awaken and goes up the spine and awakens all the chakras, and basically is a big part of spiritual enlightenment and coming into like this force in us that's so powerful and potent and has so many applications for our health and having tantric experiences and spiritual experiences. So Kundalini, the yogis, they have a very fun, awesome lens and way to look at it, which I love. More generally, though, it's just I kind of like how the Taoists speak about it as well. It's basically they speak more like in terms of like cultivating spirit and transmuting Jing into Qi into Shin, and then merging the Shin with the Tao and all of that. It's such a beautiful lens, and they're very connected. Um, yeah, so Kundalini is a force to be reckoned with. There's a lot to be said about it. The mainstream Kundalini method is something called Kundalini yoga. By the name, you would think, oh, they are what Kundalini is in a way, but actually, they're very famous and popular modality and school of thought of how to teach Kundalini and how to awaken it, but they aren't fundamentally Kundalini itself, right? Kundalini is ancient. It's a concept from ancient times in yoga, again about this potent life force energy that us humans have access to, that we can turn on within ourselves and experience it. And I feel, it's basically infinite, and I feel I have more that I can turn on and access. I'm certain of that. But I feel comfortable sharing with you about this because I do feel I've awakened my Kundalini, as they call it, to some large degree. And yeah, I've done a lot of the yogic practices, like really deep. I've studied and practiced graduate level, you could say, if we were to equate it to PhDs sort of stuff, which I've also done a PhD in physics. Um, these practices are powerful and they work. But there's a thing that happens with a lot of these mainstream yogic and other practices like the breath work and in Kundalini yoga practices too. And what I see is that they are largely using control and force to get to these heightened states, to come into these experiences, but they, which work to some degree, but it's largely it's not sustainable. Or another way to put it is, I feel from my experience in working with shaking medicine and somatic modalities and trauma release in my own path in this spiritual journey, I feel they are not, well, they're forcing things and it's not so sustainable. And so you're seeing a lot of people burn out through this. They're having crises, psychosis, meltdowns. And a lot of people are coming to me with these problems, looking to see if shaking medicine is a solution. And I'm here to say it is. Like, it's really powerful for this Kundalini awakening, which I see as more of like a yin, a feminine force, rather than something that is like, oh, masculine, and we need to like force it online. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these practices don't have their place. They certainly do, these more forceful approaches. My perspective is more that everything should be, approached in a balanced way. The Wu Wei, the yin yang, the effortless effort, okay, if we're doing controlled practices, where are the uncontrolled practices, so to speak? And that's what shaking medicine is. The reason so many people find it really powerful and potent, shaking medicine, is because it's an authentic lens for learning to let go of control and surrender. And I mean like truly surrender, because the mechanism we use, the neurogenic therapeutic tremoring, it's not something you can fake. It's either happening or it's not happening. Let's use like yin yoga for an example. Love yin yoga. It's amazing. They'll say, we'll get into a shape and we'll basically go, not full force, maybe some 20, 30, 40, 50% of the shape, our limit, and then hang out there for like 5 or so minutes with the idea of just surrendering and letting go. And that's great. Some people might fully access letting go from something like that. But what happens is, I think a lot of people, they're in this state of thinking about relaxing and letting go. And to some degree, of course they do. There's lots of benefits in that. But there's a deep letting go of like truly letting go of the control, where the innate body's wisdom, and I'm not talking about something esoteric, I'm talking about instinctive mechanisms that actually evolved within us to unravel things like aches, pains, tensions, anxieties, stress, trapped emotions, and trauma, naturally, using the neurogenic therapeutic tremoring and spontaneous pandiculation in its deeper form. Oh, there's a motorbike going by right now. So since we're talking about yoga, there's something called the koshas, which I want to explain really simply because it's a useful model. There's basically 5 layers of our being, from the outer to the inner. And the yogic journey, roughly speaking, is to start on the outer and you work inwards. So there's like the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and then the final spiritual bliss layer. So we do our yoga practice to get into the physical, the breath work, the pranayama, into the energetic. But what I see with the yoga and with the Kundalini and such, they are kind of skipping the 3rd kosha, which is very beautifully and potently addressed through these neurogenic instinctive mechanisms I'm talking about, which is the core focus of shaking medicine. So I feel like shaking medicine is prime to heal at this level, the way nature designed us to. It's not something that anyone made up. Like, yeah, I made up a creative modality I call shaking medicine around how to explore these in a fun and creative way that's safe and effective and all that. But at its core, the reason why it works so well, this is the whole reason I did it as a scientist. I resonated with so much. This is nature, right? It evolved within us. It heals the emotions, the trauma. the deep, deep stuff, the deepest fears. It shifts the belief systems, and it does it all using the body. You know, it's not a logical process. Here goes that motorbike again. um, it's not a logical process like a talk therapy process. It's a somatic, embodied experience where the intelligence of the nervous system just knows how to discharge all these charges. So it clears that third kosha. It clears the blockages in the body through surrender and letting go. And then what happens is the Kundalini, to bring all that back to Kundalini, it just awakens this feminine, powerful force from being let in a state of let go and surrender. It just comes online. It's not something that we have to force. And yeah, again, these controlled, forceful practices have a part to play, and they're worth knowing as well. But I feel without this balance, without this potent way to clear the body, we're going to be very limited. And if we're only forcing it, and generally speaking, like I don't use these forceful practices much at all, but I do have done them, um, and I'm finding that my energy is just, yeah, it's potent. It's the Kundalini is flowing really strongly through this surrender, and it's been very safe because again, it's not forcing, it's allowing, and the deep intelligence that's moving us through these neurogenic mechanisms. What I realize, and a lot of people ask me this question, they say, oh, but the shaking, it's not the same as Kundalini. And to some degree, I agree, and to some degree, I disagree. I feel like the more correct answer is to say that the same intelligence that's behind this thing we call Kundalini, this potent life force, and these neurogenic mechanisms like the neurogenic tremoring and pendiculation, the same intelligence is behind them, so they're intimately connected, if not basically the same thing, because they are, it seems to me, based on the same deep primal evolutionary mechanisms in our body. Because of that, they are intimately connected, and doing these processes, which deeply calls us to surrender and let go, awakens this potent life force in us. It brings us into vibrant health and vitality. And it, generally speaking, it brings such beautiful life experiences that me 5-10 years ago would have been like, what is that? How is that even possible? But it becomes my normal, my everyday experience, have profound like spiritual experiences. And it's especially noticeable when I'm around a lot of other people. Like I went to Love Fest, a festival this past weekend, and I just was having so many deep experiences with people that's normal for me when I'm just with myself all the time. But they're kind of like, whoa, I'm giving body work to people, and they're like going into full tremoring or like deep releases and stuff like this. So Kundalini, if you're interested in this topic, I would highly recommend trying out my work, my love, my life passion that I've been creating, shaking medicine. Even if you don't want Kundalini awakening, which I feel it's amazing if done safely, in which I think this is also more effective as well, because it gets the stuff in the way out of the way first, and that's a key point. First, this stuff moves the heaviness, the trauma, the trapped emotions, the physical aches, pains, tensions. That's the easy part for it. So if you have any of that, it's like, this is gold. And then just naturally the Kundalini, what we call that stuff, comes online as like a side effect. So if you're having troubles with your Kundalini awakening, I would suggest a gentler, more, this is a very yin approach. Some people think shaking medicine is, it's like, oh, it's like, they often use the word like intense, but it's not. We're tremoring. We're not doing like powerful Kundalini, oh, forceful stuff. We're relaxing so much. So using gentle movements and stuff so that the thing within us that shakes us for us, not from doing, but from just surrendering, deeply relaxing, and then the tremoring comes online. And I'm blissed out and relaxed. I'm not doing it. It's a happeningness within. So if you want Kundalini awakening safely and efficiently, reach out, do this. It's powerful, it works, it's safe. Of course, we can overshake, but it's pretty easy not to overshake. Just don't do multiple journeys a day and have some days off here and there. But generally speaking, this is the safest stuff because it's instinctive mechanisms that evolved over billions of years to do exactly what it does. There's another piece before we get out of here that I've seen that's very important. And well, before I get into that, if you feel you're getting anything out of this, please help us out. Like, subscribe, comment. That's a good way to ask me questions. If you won't comment, I'll definitely do my best to reply to all comments, or join the school community where you can learn this stuff. I've got really many progressive courses at this point, and even a course on what I'm about to share with you now, a missing piece in the Kundalini awakening world that I think is super important to be able to climb to the infinity of what's possible with Kundalini. Otherwise, we'll be limited and we'll explode, and then we'll have a crash, and it'll take us weeks or months or years to recover. We don't want that. We want sustainable consistency. And this is, interesting enough, it comes from the Taoists, but Qigong. Qigong is the most advanced energy science that I found. Maybe that's a good topic for another video. If you want that topic, let me know. Put it in the comments. Why is it more so, I think, than yoga? We could dive into that topic, but basically, Qigong is the most powerful art of grounding energy that I found. And however high we want to go, we need to be at least equally grounded to awaken our Kundalini safely and to cultivate our spirit towards, we can have our unique goals with this, but let's say spiritual enlightenment, like the yogis call it, or full-blown tantric experiences with ourselves, with others, with the world, Kundalini awakenings. We need to keep it grounded. And so in my shaking medicine movement, my modality, shakingmedicine.com, we have a school community with the courses. I created, it's been my focus all year, and it'll be for the rest of this year and probably well into next year and beyond, not just another course, but a modality of Qigong. Like, I can't believe it. I created a style of Qigong called shaking medicine Qigong, or in other words, it's a spontaneous neurogenic style of Qigong, where it's not just about controlled forms, but it's about, one of the goals is to learn these forms, and the intention is to learn the foundations of Qigong at a deep foundational level, not just memorizing a bunch of movements and mimicking things, although I have a lot of popular Qigong sets in there too. But the goal is to understand the principles at a root level, and I'm a PhD quantum physicist, so I like to understand things at a root level, and so I'm putting my intention in that and sharing in this course the best I possibly can of how to embody Qigong and understand it at a root level. and bring in shaking medicine. These, like, not make it so strict, but allow the when the body wants to have the releases and such, and the Kundalini wants to move through. So this is designed, it's the big missing piece of Kundalini awakening, really, where we focus on the equal and opposite roots growing down a lot. Of course, Qigong goes up too, but there's a big equal and opposite balance emphasis on the grounding. Okay, so there's some of my thoughts and feelings and streams of consciousness around what this Kundalini is all about. Please reach out anytime if you have questions. If you can find me. I love to make shaking medicine relational, so yeah, reach out, join the community, like, subscribe, all that beautiful stuff, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Bye for now.